Today, I want to talk about interviewing, and I want to talk in particular about some grave mistakes that I think, dare I say, 100% of job seekers, at least the ones that I coach, make. And it's a natural mistake or mistakes. They all center on around the way in which you respond to interview answers, which obviously is something that is incredibly key to success in an interview. And so today I want to talk about what I think are three central errors that people make when they tell their stories, when they respond to questions. And I want to start out with a little story. I want to then tell you the analogy of the story and how kind of I see it relating to what you're doing when you're responding to interviewers' questions in the interview. I want to let you know what I think the mistakes are, what the cure are, and then I have some more free resources in every point I'm going to make today where you can dive deeper if you enjoy it. All right, now the first thing that I want you to wrap your mind around, and I know this is really, really hard for you, but your interviewing and your interviewing performance has absolutely nothing to do with how well you do your job. Zero, none. Because if it did, it would be done in a completely different format. Instead of 30 minutes or 60 minutes asking you ridiculous questions and you being frightened on whether or not your responses are going to be effective. It is also not your job during an interview to answer the questions that are being asked. That's not your job in an interview. It's not to answer their questions. It's not to relive your history, word for word, paragraph by paragraph of all the scenes of your life. That's not your job, but that's what a lot of people try to do. It is your responsibility to understand what it is the employer needs, the goals they have, the problems they have, and for you to give them information using scenes from your life to be able to illustrate for them how you're going to be able to transform their lives when you get there and help them achieve their goals by overcoming their problems because you have the skill sets that have enabled you to achieve and attain accomplishments for previous employers. So I was out running, I don't know, about 2 weeks ago, and this story popped in my head because I'm running out of ways to illustrate and make analogies for you. So I hope you enjoy this little story because we're going back 48 years in Coach's life, maybe 49, 47, 48, 49 years to when I was a young grade school student. I was probably about 10 years old, so let's call this circa 1970s, mid-1970s. Let's call it 76, maybe even as late as 1977. So I'm 10 or 11 years old. And it might not surprise you, I was a pretty good student, and I worked really, really hard. That probably doesn't surprise you at all. And every year we would have these tests that I'm sure that I don't have children, but I'm sure the grade school students and the parents of the little kids, I'm sure you go through this agony every year where your kid takes some standardized tests. Mine were called the Iowa tests. And they would give us these tests, and there would be math and different types of math, and there would be reading and different types of reading and comprehension and speed and paragraphs and multiple choice and all this other nonsense and some other things. And every year I would take these tests, and I never prided myself on being a great test taker. And I would always crush the math portion. That's where the engineer in me. But I wasn't really great at reading. When I say not great at reading, what I mean is I was not even at level. So if I was in fourth grade, I wasn't even reading at fourth grade level, according to the standard Iowa test. So between about fourth and fifth grade, maybe it was fifth and sixth grade, I take these tests, and I will tell you that I win life because of these two greatest things in my life, which was my school desk and my dinner table. And so I had taken this test, and it was dinner time, and the results had come home, and I got home after school. I got the results. I gave them to my mom. My dad gets home after work. And I knew he was not going to be happy because this year my reading score had really, really fallen. And so he gets home, they look at the scores, and he looks at the thing, and he says to me, Annie, he said, what's with this? Right? You're a good student. You work really hard. Why are your reading scores so low? I'm like, yeah, but you see the math scores? Those are like off the charts. He says, I know, but reading's really important. Like what gives? I'm like, Dad, I don't know. I mean, there's just a bunch of words. They're strung together. They don't make any sense to me. I'm bored with it. I don't know why I'm reading this stuff. It seems irrelevant, boring. I don't really understand. So he says, okay, I tell you what, this is what we're going to do. No TV, no video games, no nothing, any night until you and I do reading practice. I was like, well, can we do that? Can we start tomorrow? Because like SWAT's on tonight, and I gotta watch SWAT because I watch SWAT. It's like my favorite show, and I gotta go talk with my buddies tomorrow. It's about the episode. He says, well, you're gonna have to miss it tonight. So now you would think that he would give me something to read that was actually fun, but no, whatever novel he was in the middle of, because he read a lot. Whatever he was in the middle of, that's what we were gonna read. So he picks up this book he was reading and he says, okay, here, I want you to read these 10 pages. We probably was in the middle of the book. So I read the 10 pages, took me like 30 minutes. It takes him like 3 minutes. And we go into the living room and we sit down. Now he sits down in this gold chair, and this is like, remember, this is circa 1970s. There was this gold colored velour velvety chair. He sat on that. I popped a squat on the gold shag carpet, probably sitting next to the radiant heat. And he looks at me, he says, okay, question number one, start out with an easy one. And he asks me who the main character was in the books. He's like, who's Bob? Tell me about Bob. Bob. He's Andy. He's the main character. He's on every single page. I'm like, Dad, I'm just reading the words. I'm pronouncing them out. I'm reading them out. I'm good in spelling. Well, you got to remember. You got to remember what you read. And you need to look at the information and you need to try to draw conclusions, but you need to remember. So now I'm thinking, okay, well, I got to read to remember, and I got to read for reasoning. Like I got to be able to do, why does this occur? Or he was asking me questions about why might that occur. And so the next night rolls around. Now, this is really bad because the next night, Charlie's Angels was on. And if you don't understand, this is mid-1970s. There was no such thing as DVRs, and VHSs and Betamaxes weren't even around, at least not in the LaCivita house, until, I don't know, maybe 1979 or 80. So if you missed the program, you missed the program, and there was absolutely no way I was missing Farrah Fawcett that night. Come on. I know the dudes that are my age or a little older, you know what it meant to miss Farrah, right? I had a Farrah Fawcett poster on my adorned the wall of my bedroom. I know a lot of you guys. Did anybody else have a Farrah Fawcett poster on their bedroom wall? And if any of you have no idea what I'm talking about, you just go to Google and you type Farrah poster, and up is going to pop this picture of her that's very famous in a reddish bikini. It's like immortalized. That woman's charm knew no age limit. So I know Mark M knows what I'm talking about. Larry B knows what I'm talking about. Carlos knows what I'm talking about. Steven Carolla knows what I'm talking about. Check it out. Okay. So Charlie's Angels, where was I? Okay, so I get home from school. I get ready. Dinner time's rolling around. I'm eating like this because now I got to read for speed. I got to read for reasoning. I got to remember what the hell I'm reading. And there ain't no way I'm missing Charlie's Angels. Because, Farrah was pretty great. And Jacqueline Smith and Kate Jackson weren't bad either. So I wasn't missing this. So we sit down. My dad asks me the questions. I do a little better because I completely changed the way that I had read that night. I understood what the goals were. The goals were, at that night, I needed to read for speed because Farrah was coming on. I needed to make sure I could read for recall or retention because he was going to ask me about the characters. And I needed to be able to understand what was going on. And so I had to look at everything completely differently. And as I read those, I was making associations. Bob, yeah, I got a friend named Bob. He's kind of like this. Or I'm reading a passage and, yeah, that's kind of something I would do in school. And I was making these associations or something I would do on the ball field or whatever it was. And so over the course of the week, I got a bit better at this. And then the end of the year came around and I had to take that stupid Iowa test again, but the score went way, way up, which would make sense because I did a lot of reading every day for some novels I would never pick up as a child, but it helped me tremendously. And why am I telling you this story? Because the way I was reading that paragraph, the word for word, line by line, trying to pronounce and enunciate all the words and stringing them together without a real understanding of what the goal was, is one of the greatest analogies I could use for the people that I spend half of my day with every single day, super smart people that I coach in interviews, But that's how they tell their stories. And that's how a lot of job seekers tell their stories, as if I need to completely relive every scene of my life from the beginning of birth till now when I'm in an interview and I'm trying to explain exactly what happened in my career on some project that took me a year long that I need to try to compress down to 3 minutes. That is exactly how you tell stories, most of you. And we need to reshape the way you think about why you're in an interview. It is not to relive your past. It is not to explain your experience. It's not. It is to figure out what it is that they need and how you're going to transform their lives, and be able to package a story from the highlights, the scenes of your life. And the power in the story is actually what's not said in the story. The power is in what's not said. It is every bit as much as what is said. And then connecting the dots for them so that they can immediately reason that you are the right match for the job. Speed, reasoning, so that they know you're the right match. In the shortest amount of time, convince them that you are the right match, and make it so that they can actually remember you. And the way that they will do that is in 2-word clusters. And I will explain all of what I mean by this. But I need you to completely rethink what's happening in an interview. You get what I'm saying so far? All right. So I want you to think about this. Rate, reasoning, remembering. You are the architect of your life. You are the author of your stories, the painter. I need you to pick up the brush and paint me a Mona Lisa using only the scenes from the highlights of your projects. Okay, so this is the first thing. So I need you to wrap your mind around this. Speed, reasoning, right match, remembering. All right, so let's go through these, each one of them. Now I want to go through each one of them. I'm going to tell you what it is, how I want you to think about it, what I think is something we need to eradicate, the issues that you have, these mistakes that you're making, and then what the cure is. All right, first one, speed. What is it? The goal is to convince them as early as possible, as fast as possible, that you are the right person for the job. Whatever you're interviewing for, there needs to be a power story that comes out immediately after you say hello and you tell them a little about you, which is probably a great introduction, like the prelude or the prologue to your power story, which is a story of a project that they need to understand. You want to do this. Now, what you tend to do, and when I say you tend to do, I mean, again, I spend half of my day, every single day, coaching people. What they generally do, which I'm assuming is what you usually do, is you take a really, really long time in your stories because you're trying to explain what happened. And here's what it sounds like. When I'm building a story with somebody and they say to me, okay, but Coach Andy, can we pause here for a second because I need to explain to you what actually happened. No, that is not the purpose. And then when you think about what's going on all up here as you're trying to remember what you did, all I care about is putting it in. You're compressing a year-long project into a 3-minute story. It's only the information that sells you best. So it needs to be in a structure already preloaded so that you can move with some real pace with only information that sells you best. It's what you leave out that makes your story great. We want them to imagine and make inferences in the direction you want. What you think they need are all the details of what actually happens. They do not need that. They can't remember any of this anyway. That's too much for them to hang on to. So what they're doing is they're looking for verifications that you have what they need because they're making assumptions based on your resume or whatever background that you have. So what is it that I want you to do? Well, the first thing is I want you to remember we speak in a particular format when we respond to answers, and it's not the STAR technique, and I'm not even talking about my CAR technique at this point. I want you to think about when you sell yourself only using ingredients with specific nomenclature or language and only the sellables. So what does that sound like? What's the difference? Okay. And let me tell you what I often hear, and then let me tell you what I want you to do. So every single one of you, no matter what your function is, when you are describing the steps that you take to achieve a goal, overcome a problem, fix a problem, come up with a new solution, pick anything you want, 100% of the time, 100, you do some form of an assessment. You have to think before you do anything. Maybe you think and it's in 60 seconds, that's fine. Maybe it's 6 days, maybe it's 6 weeks, maybe it's 6 months. I don't really care. But you are going to describe the assessment, the researching, you are an analyzer, you're an assessor. You are stepping back to evaluate the current state, and you're looking at the future state. Every single one of you, no matter what you do, no matter what widget you make, no matter what service you sell, no matter what product you market, no matter what books you account for, that's what you do. You always get your arms around something. Okay, so let's say you're gonna open up a new region or design a new project or launch a new project or do anything that you can imagine. Just think about what you do. A lot of you wanna tell me A to Z what it is that you did. So, the first thing that I needed to do was I needed to do some research and get my hands around what the current state was and what the future state might look like. So I needed to build a team, and I needed to designate somebody to go over into the database and look at all the customer data. And then I needed to find somebody to go to the different warehouses or the satellite offices and actually ask questions to interview people so that they could gather data. And here's the questions that they asked them. And then what I did was I needed to figure out, well, I had to have somebody else go out and talk to our competitors and see maybe what they were doing or what different divisions and so then we had to put a plan. This is what your stories sound like. Who gets what I'm saying, right? And you're giving me the paragraph. You're giving me all the words. You're enunciating everything. You're giving me all the steps. There's so much dead weight in that story. Not to mention it's taken forever. So what I want you to do is I want you to compress it down. First sweep at this, because we're going to keep going over the same thing every single time. What are the ingredients? What's the specific language? What are the syllables? What is it that you want them to know? You want them to know that you know where to look. You want them to know you know how to analyze. You want them to know you're organized. You want them to know you're experienced. You want them to know that you know how to assess. Okay, so we needed to do the research. Well, in order to figure out what the new product line was going to be, I had to look at our top 100 customers. I had to look at their demographics. I had to look at what they were buying. I had to look at how much they were spending. I looked at by geography. Then what I did was I looked at our competition. I looked at their products. I tried to get market insights from that. From that insight, I was able to draw the conclusion that that's it. That's all you need to say. I don't know how many seconds that took me, but that's a portion of your story. Those are ingredients. They were very specific. What is the listener doing? The listener is thinking 4 times faster than you can talk. That's an awful lot of time to think about Farah. Okay, so you don't want them to get ahead. You don't want them to get bored, and you don't want to lose them in the weeds. All they need to know is, I got the highlights. You knew where to look. I don't care if you had a 20-person team doing it or you did it all by yourself. The point isn't that you want to spend a lot of time on the researching, but you need to let them know you know how to analyze a problem. Get what I'm saying? Okay, so think in terms of speed. Trim out the fat. You want more on this? There's 3 great resources I have. All are free. First one is a YouTube video. Maybe Kara could drop it in the chat if she's on her toes, which she usually is. She's a good dancer. The job interview formula, guaranteed to get you hired. This will give you more on my CAR technique. It's CAAR. I'll help you with that. I have an evergreen, meaning it runs all the time. You can watch it at your leisure if you bother to sign up for it for free. It's called the Job Interview Playbook Webinar. I do not want you to get confused for those of you who happen to be sitting here with me on February 27th when we're doing this live. Next week at my live office hours, I am taking a slide or 2 out of this deck. I'm going to present it to you live, and then my brave boot camper Hannah is going to join me on the camera, and we are going to build her story live in front of you so you can see what this looks like real time. That's March 6th. So this one you can watch whenever. It's about 77 minutes. This here next week will be me and Hannah building her case study. but I'll get you a running start on that. Okay, that's number one. Think speed. Number two, reasoning. You want to be able to connect the dots for them using your past, the projects, the skills, and the accomplishments. Your past does not get you a job. Your ability to show them how you will transform their future gets you a job. They do not buy these. They don't buy your skills. They buy the application, their projected application of your skills in their environment to achieve their goals by overcoming their problems. And how fast you can do that or how high you could achieve those goals is what gets you hired and how much it gets you paid. But you need to use examples from your past. Okay, so what are the issues here? Well, you're thinking about your past and not their future. You're worried about questions they're going to be asking you instead of what is it they need to know in order to make a good determination that I'm a great fit and how could I do that as fast as possible. So you're worried about what they're going to be asking instead of what they need to know. No matter what question you ask me about if you should get in my program or anything, I'm going to answer the question you should have asked me. I'm not going to rely on you who lacks experience in this or an interviewer who lacks experience in interviewing to ask me the right question. I'm going to own it and take it upon myself to make sure you get the right information. What gives you the best information and makes it easiest for an unskilled interviewer to make a determination that I'm a great fit for them? Something that shows them exactly how I would operate in their environment. So the first thing that you need to do is you make sure you need to avoid picking irrelevant stories. Let me tell you something. I don't know if he's here. I got a super client. Great dude. He and I, Tuesday night, were working on some interview prep that he has, I think maybe today or tomorrow. I think tomorrow maybe is his interview. And he wanted to work on his power story and use my card technique to formulate it. And he put some effort and time into doing that. And he was using a story that was recent from his most recent job, which was a great story, except that they're an educational institution, which he is interviewing with. He is talking about a story from a non-educational institution. He has 13 years of experience working with educational institutions. So I said to him, why are we working this story? We should be working one from your most relevant experience. So we need to overcome this problem by giving them something exact that sounds like music to their ears. It's exactly like what we're doing here. So what you want to do is number one, you want to make sure that you are using the most relevant stories. I did this exactly like you need me to do it. That's your nirvana, but I realize you don't always have the nirvana. The next best thing is, can I give them analogies that are exactly like the skills I need to demonstrate? And even though it's not an educational institution, I'm doing the same kind of things, and they could sort of get it. So that's the next best thing. And then what I want you to do is I want you to obsess about them. I want you to think about them. I want you to think about the job description, or if you don't have a job description, I want you to manufacture one. You must have some kind of idea of what you're interviewing for. And I want you to think in these terms. I want you to checklist back the skills that need to shine in the story. So what do I mean by this? All right. So Chris was his name, and he is a fund developer, and he's interviewing with this school. And I looked at the job description, which was well written. And the job description talked about who they were. It talked about what they needed. He was like the head development guy, funding development, business development. Basically, he needed to raise funds for this high school. And so it went through a list of things that said, development, like make me the money, go get the money. Okay, you need to develop the strategy. You need to execute the plan. There's different areas that we want to look at. We need to make this more robust. Then there was other responsibilities like, work with the board, work with the president, work with the other, play nice with the people, the other people that are contributing to this, right? Some other things. Now, when you look at a job description like that, their goal is to raise money, right? Their problem was they didn't know how to do that because they'd run one event a year, they'd send out an invitation, and then they would try to make a whole bunch of money. That's not very effective. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. So when he goes in there, I said to him, we don't even need to know, do you have a story where, let's as fast as possible, get the one story out that, what does it do? It checks all the boxes as fast as you can in one story. In the first few minutes of the interview, they're going to see that you have all of those things. And so, do you have something in an educational institution where you created a strategy, you raised the money, you rolled it out, you had to pitch it to the board? I asked him, do you have this, and this? He says, I do. We said, let's do that story. And so what we did was we worked backwards to say, okay, so now when you tell them your story, you're going to make sure that you're using language in the story that's helping them go check, because that's what they're doing. So, and he said, well, I was in this situation. We needed to raise money. I needed to create a new strategy because we had only been doing one event for a year. So I was hired because of my expertise in raising funds across all the different mediums by which you can do that. So there are a number of different ways that a school can raise funds. So in his story, what he's doing is he says, okay, so here was the issue. We needed to figure out how to raise more money. We only had one event. So when he goes into his story, he's going to talk about how he assessed what they did, how much money they raised, who was giving him that insight. What are the opportunities to create new channels related to tapping into alumni, using email campaigns, setting up a more white glove service for major donors who are going to give the schools more than $5,000 and other things. So all of these things that where he says, and I built a strategy and a plan that included, we augmented what they were currently doing, but then we added boom. And what they're hearing is check, he knows how to do that. Check, he knows how to do that. He knows how to put the strategy together. He knows how to put the plan together. He's telling me a successful story. I know this is going to end successfully because he foreshadowed the result. And what they're doing is they're saying, wow, that sounds like experience. Wow, he sounds organized. Wow, that's exactly what we need. So he is working backwards. And when he says, so then I pitched my approach to the board and explained to them what it was going to cost, how long it was going to take, what systems we needed to implement, what resources I needed, they're saying, oh, he knows how to present to the board. And he could do this in 3 minutes. Do you get what I'm saying? So far, is this eye-opening? I know what I'm saying is super obvious, but was it obvious before I said it? So if it was obvious before I said it, why aren't you doing it? Right? Yeah, I'm still thinking about fair too. Okay. All right. So on this piece, I got a video out on my YouTube channel called How to Choose the Right Job Interview Answers. You'll kill yourself if you're not choosing the best story. You'll really kill yourself if you're not telling it well. Okay. There he is. Okay. All right. When I say retention, what I really mean is, how'd you make them feel? And they're going to use 2 words to describe it. 2 nouns, 2 adjectives, or an adjective and a noun. So let's go back. You want them to feel what you want them to feel. So going back to Chris's story, what was he wanting them to feel? I want them to feel that I'm experienced. I want them to feel I'm organized. I want them to feel I have executive communication skills. I want them to feel I'm experienced, right? It's the same thing like what the skill checklists are. And what they're doing is they're not remembering everything you said, okay? They're remembering how you made them feel. So I want you to remember this. You do not get hired because of your qualifications, ever. Don't fall into that trap. The most qualified person rarely gets the job. It's the person who sells themselves best. And they hire who they like. They hire who they feel is going to be a good teammate. They hire who they feel has the right expertise. So when he's telling his story, same kind of thing. You're checking back. They're deducing your skills. Wow, he said all the pillars that we would want to go after. He must be very experienced. He must be highly organized. He must be technically savvy. He must know how to market the campaigns. He must know how to persuade the board. That's what they're storing in their head. The minute you walk out the door, they're going to forget everything you said unless you offended them. And so I need you to make sure, what are you going for? Look at what they're asking for. Look at what they need. Are you making them feel? Because remembering you is going to be a completely different thing. When they feel good about you, all they're going to remember is they felt good. Do you get this? Who is an ace at this? Who has read this little beauty? Right? You get the idea. Speaking of my little beauty. All right, here's a couple of other freemiums. Interview intervention, communication that gets you hired. I'll ship this to, well, the price is going to be going up soon because I just had to order 3,000 more copies. But what's in the warehouse right now is being shipped out everywhere for $7 US, and you get the ebook and you get the audiobook. So basically it's free. You give me a few dollars for the envelope and the service fees for the guys to pick it and pack it. I printed the book for you. I'll even ship it to you anywhere in the world, $7 USD. So the other thing is, I want you to look at this video. The best way to prepare for a job interview, I want you to make sure you're watching I don't know if you can see this, the November 5th, 2024 episode. That specific episode. It's my favorite. It's the latest. It's my best. Okay, so all I got to ask now is, who's tracking? Right? You get what I'm saying? You got to reshape the way you think about what it is that you are doing. And it's all about how fast can you convince them that you are the right person for the job and make them feel or remember you using those two adjectives, right? Subject, expert, right? Highly organized, those kinds of things, as fast as possible. We want your story to be what? Fast, powerful, and memorable. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. And then you get a little peek into my life as a 10-year-old boy and my 10-year-old boy crushes and all that good stuff. If you enjoyed this, please click the like button, share it. People need help. Interviewing is hard. It's really, really hard. And people need help. And make sure you subscribe to the station. Make sure you're on my newsletter. Because, it hurts me when you miss my emails, and it hurts me when you miss my recorded videos on Tuesday at 6:30 a.m., and it really hurts me when you miss my live shows on Thursday. All right, if you're here with me live, we're going to the chat. If you're watching this on the recording, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week.